Hi everyone, and welcome to our Syskit Point product session about securing your M365 data and reducing the costs. So my name is Daniel and I'm the product manager here at Syskit, and today I'm joined by Philip. He's our product owner, as well as Vlad. So you all know Vlad. He's our technical evangelist and the Microsoft MVP. So before we start with our today's topics, there is a couple of important information for everyone. All registrants will receive a recording of this session, but I hope you all stick with us until the very end. And also we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, but feel free to ask any questions during the session as well. I'll keep an eye on the questions and we'll try to answer them as they arrive. So please don't be shy, don't hesitate to share any thoughts that you might have, any feedback on the topic while we are talking. So use the Q&A function to let us know what your current challenges are so that we can address them during the webinar as well. And also feel free to share any experience you might have had related to the topic while we are discussing it. So that being said, I believe, let's say, I'm very glad to see a lot of people joining as we are starting this. So, Syskit Point, Syskit, we are a software development company. We have been founded more than 15 years ago. We create high quality and easy to use governance and management solutions for Microsoft 365 and SharePoint. And we currently are trusted by more than 3,500 customers all around the world, some of which you can see here on the left-hand side. For those of you who are new to Syskit Point is a management, security, and governance platform for Microsoft 365. We help organizations of any size, especially if they have fast-growing environments, if they are highly regulated, to get kind of better control over their user access, their workspace inventory, and management across all of their Microsoft 365, as well as to enforce many different governance policies. So Point, in that case, provides you with deep visibility, easy cleanup and control over your external collaboration, also oversharing, user access, and we deal a lot with sprawl. So most importantly, it is here to help you kind of get your environment clean and properly governed from the creation till the end of your Microsoft 365 workspace. So that being said, our plan for today, you can see it here on the agenda. Our plan is to have an open discussion and demos around how you can minimize your sprawl and the associated SharePoint storage costs around that. Why is it important for organizations to improve their sensitivity label adoption, especially in the world where it's no longer just our users overexposing the data, but also AI in form of Copilot and agents having access to that data. And last but not least, we are going to be discussing Power Platform. So we all know Power Platform has had some sort of very tremendous growth that we are seeing right now, and it's important for IT teams and security to start focusing on Power Platform as well. So that's going to be our last topic for today. As I already mentioned, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end, so feel free to ask any questions. But this discussion is supposed to be interactive, so please feel free to use the Q&A button that you see to ask us any questions during, and I'll try to keep an eye on that so that we answer all of your questions as they arrive. So that's roughly being it to start. So I believe our first topic, it's good to start with that. So the first topic is sprawl. This is the arch enemy of all of the IT teams and security teams. We have been hearing about the need to minimize workspace sprawl as one of the main challenges that IT teams and security teams are focusing on since basically I can remember. But on the other hand, it does seem that this problem is growing over the years. So maybe to switch it to Vlad. So why do you believe this is the case? Why is this problem growing over years?
Thank you, Daniel, for having me. So it's been quite interesting when organizations started moving to M365. Microsoft gave us so much free data, and so many companies were like, well, we don't need to get rid of stuff. We don't pay for it. And we're like, we don't need to bother deleting. We still, the storage bar at the top of your SharePoint Admin Center was still green. So it was never a problem. But now, after a couple of years, so many organizations are starting to hit that limit, and not only it has financial impacts, which of course a lot of companies are now getting to. Let's add another 100 gigs per month. Let's add another 100, and next thing you know, you're paying thousands per month just in storage costs for stuff you don't need. But we already know about that. The thing that I realize most companies now are surprised by is that if you have old data in your environment, it will also affect how effective Copilot is. Because Copilot, and not just Copilot, every AI system works better when you give it just the right amount of data, as little as possible of high quality data. But if Copilot has to look at all your data for the past 10 years, all your projects, what are the chances that a project name, a client name has been repeated over the last 10 years? Hopefully a lot, because you keep the same clients. But then it confuses Copilot, because it will look at all the data, it might not return the right information, and not only will you pay extra money for data you don't need, but also your brand new AI project that you're trying to get adoption for, a user will go in, they'll try it the first few times. If all they get is outdated information, then they'll stop using. And so you're going to waste an additional $30 per user per month. And I'm not just saying that to sell storage. Even Microsoft is seeing this. And, they implemented so many new features to help companies get rid of data, from SharePoint Advanced Management, the lifecycle management, to now M365 Archive, which they actually made reactivation free, because they want companies to take older unused stuff, even if they don't have a workflow to get rid of it yet, which you should work on. But let's be honest, that takes time, and not everybody has time right now. But instead of paying basically 60 cents per gig per month to keep that data in hot storage into SharePoint Online, you could put it at 5 cents per storage inside Microsoft 365 Archive. And until this month, a lot of companies were not using Archive because they were afraid. Because what happens if I need to bring it back in a month, and then I need to pay Microsoft even more money? But now Microsoft is removing that reactivation fee. So you can put stuff into Archive, pay 5 cents per gig per month, so a lot cheaper than keeping it in hot storage. And if ever you need it back, just reactivate it for free. Microsoft wins because now Copilot, all their expensive GPUs, don't have to crawl so much data that they're not going to need anyway. And all the storage, all the computing power, because Copilot now, instead of looking at, let's say, 10 terabytes of data, it will look at 3 terabytes of data. So Microsoft wins on computing power. Microsoft wins on effectiveness, because, of course, they don't want people to stop using Copilot. And your average user will not care that, my company didn't clean old data, that's why I'm doing it, it's not Microsoft's fault. End users don't care about that. End users just want to use it. They're like, okay, this doesn't save me time, I'll stop using it. And if somebody asks it, are you using Copilot? No, okay, we can cancel the license. So really, it's not just me telling you that. We see Microsoft investing so much money making stuff free to help organizations save storage and only keep effective data. But still, at the end of the day, you still have to find a way to get rid of that old storage, even from Archive, because if you start paying thousands of dollars to keep stuff in Archive for 10 years, you're not winning much either. There is a better way to actually make sure that all your data is fresh and find that balance between, kind of try to find a workflow of, hey, a site might not be active anymore. Let's use the built-in SharePoint lock functionality that we can click on lock. People can't access it, and we'll wait for them to complain. Hey, okay, nobody complained for a few months. Now we can put it in archive. It's been in archive for a year. We can delete it, or whatever your workflow be. Start having that intelligent workflow of knowing when do you get rid of data. But I think we'll get into another problem after is how do we know when workspaces are not used? And this is where Syskit can help a lot with on figuring out which workspaces aren't actually used and which ones you can get rid of.
Yeah, and sprawl is not just about kind of minimizing the amount of workspaces that IT needs to keep an eye on, or kind of feeding Copilot with the most up-to-date information. There are also hidden security risks of keeping unmanaged workspaces that you no longer need, as well as the costs that you've been talking about. So, Philip, can you kind of I know we've been doing a lot of research internally on minimizing the storage costs. Can you share a bit more around the information? What is the potential savings organizations can expect from what we see when it comes to kind of removing inactive workspaces, and show how Syskit Point can help with minimizing this workspace sprawl?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So according to our internal analysis, the total storage savings, that is, if you remove all of the inactive workspaces, is usually less than 5%. So it's not that significant in terms of total storage savings. And it makes sense, since the workspaces are inactive, new files are presumably not being added, so the storage is not growing. So it does make a huge difference in terms of savings, but the primary value is in reducing the sprawl and having a smaller number of workspaces to maintain over time. So you're spending less time to manage and maintain a clean environment because all of the workspaces that don't need to be managed are just out of your way. Now, if you're interested in storage, you can see the total storage savings here in Syskit Point. And if you go into details, you can see how much you save in general, and you can also see how much you save with the inactive workspaces. Now, this number is a bit higher than what I just said, but that's just because this environment that I'm showing is a demo, so it's not representative of real-world data. But when talking about inactive workspaces, what you can do is in Syskit Point, if you go into the settings and under policies, you can create multiple instances of inactive workspaces policies. So if we go inactive workspaces, and here I'm just going to write new policies. It's not really that creative. And you can choose the time period after which the workspace will be counted as inactive. So if you enable this for the first 90 days, the workspaces will not count as inactive. You can also specify the period for how the maximum period for how long the workspace can be kept. And at the next step, you can also choose the type of an archive that you can have. So you can have the in-place archive, which just puts the workspace in a read-only mode, or you can have the Microsoft 365 or the cold storage that Vlad talked about. And like Vlad mentioned here, you can have Microsoft has been changing the things about into the cost of recovery from cold storage because they want people to use this feature more. So Vlad, I don't know if you have anything else to add on to this based on what you previously mentioned.
No, I think it's amazing. And to add a bit to the security side of things, like Daniel mentioned, you reduce your surface area of attack because old workspaces also means the owner might not care as much. The owner might not be as implicated into, the access reviews and all the other cool stuff you're doing to secure it. So by putting it into cold storage, you reduce your total surface of attack. So you are making your company more secure in the end as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like you said, it's more cost effective to do it this way. So I'm not going to go through all of the settings here for the policy, but you can set a naming rule, the who can choose who can remove the access, and if we go into the next step, you can also choose whether you want to delegate this policy to other users, so they can so you can also offload the work from the admin to the owners of those workspaces, and you can also choose whether they want what actions they have available with the task they receive. And for this policy, we're just not going to go through that setup. We're going to close it. And if we go back to the home dashboard, you can see the inactive workspaces tile gives you a quick overview of how many inactive workspaces you have, also those that require your attention. So if we go into, if we click on this number, you can get a more detailed report like this, which explains what needs to be done, why this is important. And for admins, the most important thing is the require attention tile, which also filters the entire list to show workspaces that have no active owners and or those that have no assigned tasks. That means that there is nobody who can manage those workspaces. So the admin needs to take some kind of an action here. And you can either select the workspaces and choose yourself whether you want to keep them, delete them, or archive them. You can change the admins or change the owners for those workspaces, or you can just choose to ask owners, which for the policy that has no task delegation set up by itself, you can just manually trigger a task just for the workspaces you selected. Now, of course, the better way would be to set up task delegation, which opens up the process that I went through previously, where you can set up the policy and actually choose that owners get automatic tasks. But if you just have some individual cases, you can just select those cases and then ask owners to see what they want to do with those workspaces. And I think that's pretty much it in regards to inactive workspaces in Point. I don't know, Daniel, if you have anything to add or to this
maybe
topic.
Just to touch, maybe just to touch base on the storage costs just one more time. So let's say one thing that has been kind of asked a lot, or when we are talking to customers and in the industry about this, is will I be able to archive a file? For example, some sort of a stale file on an active workspace. So I'm not sure, Vlad, is there anything from that side, from the Microsoft side? Are they working on something like that? I know within Syskit we are looking at how best to do that in upcoming. So just maybe some sort of a discussion around that.
So I have good news and bad news for you.
Yeah.
The good news is that Microsoft announced it last year in May, so almost a year ago. They announced that they're working on file level archiving and things like that. They showed us some proof of concepts and everything. The other good news, well, okay news, let's say we'll go from good, okay, and bad, is that they added it on the M365 roadmap. So if you go on the M365 roadmap, you will see that file level archiving or item level archiving is an item there that you can track. Now, the bad news is that the current plan for it to go into GA is June 2026. So it is something that Microsoft is working on. I know it's always, before at least with the reactivation cost, it was always a challenge on how do we give admins control on stuff, but still enable users to do it. And every admin, of course, was afraid that a user will activate, reactivate, activate, reactivate, and they'll have fun getting the company bill up. But now I wonder, with no more reactivation fees, if that worry goes away and they're going to be able to speed it up. But so far, it is in the plans, but don't hold your breath. I would say, because we know that Microsoft and roadmap can split, so it will be next fiscal year for sure. But yeah, until then, focus on reducing versions and being able to, those files that you'd have wanted to archive, whether it's Teams meetings, things like that, or big videos, try to reduce versions instead. That might be a way to save storage cost on those big files while still keeping them until that functionality is available.
Exactly, and this is where we've also seen a lot, kind of a much bigger the ability to save. So as Philip was saying about kind of 5% for inactive workspaces, when you focus on versioning, it's up to 40%, even more than 40% if you focus on on just the, let's say, versioning in that case. So feel free to take a look at some of our previous webinars, or as well just try this functionality on Syskit Point. So versioning mitigation for storage cost is very, very effective way how to get your costs down. So that's one thing there. Okay, I believe this brings us to our next topic, and this is the improving of sensitivity label adoption. So even when you get your kind of sprawl under control, what happens to the workspaces that remain? So a lot of IT and security teams we talk to are having challenges kind of to decide where to put their efforts on, what to focus on first. So let's face it, as much as we would like to protect all of the content that is there on our environment, the key thing for everyone is protecting sensitive and private data. No one cares if some, I don't know, document with FIFA tournament draw that your employees are having leaks, but if some financial data or some private data leaks, that might be a problem. So we are having a lot of these discussions around sensitivity labels on workspace level, on a container level, how this helps with kind of getting extra protection you get with those sensitivity labels out of the box, but also how it helps you focus better to understand where you need to put your efforts on and what workspaces to keep kind of a closer eye on. So one stat there from our research, again, when we are discussing this with our customers as well as the industry, we see that sensitivity label adoption on a container level is extremely low. We are talking about 10 to maybe 20% of workspaces on average having sensitivity labels. So let's say in your experience, Vlad, why is it that organizations are not using sensitivity labels as much as they would kind of need to in this case? And maybe to follow up on that, what would be some kind of good case practices how to start using sensitivity labels in that?
Sure. So, like you said, I don't know why more people don't use them. It's an amazing insurance policy that even if something is wrong in your permissions, having that sensitivity label applied can save the day. But at the end of the day, why I think not more people use them is because we have to be honest here. Users are lazy, and it's not a bad thing. Users will always take the easiest path to get things done. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it as a bad thing, but if you let it up to the user, they just want to get their job done. They don't care about selecting 5 drop downs, about looking at 20 different sensitivity labels and deciding what level of confidential this is. They just want to get work done. And if you don't make it mandatory, well, it's not going to get done. That's just the unfortunate truth. And the way, if you want to get more adoption, what we've seen working more, and Microsoft is even switching the methodology into that direction, is make everything sensitive by default and deal with the exceptions. So what does that mean? Instead of for every item, for every workspace that you create, the user has to go in and say, oh, this file is top secret, this file is confidential. If you think you're going to have top secret stuff in a library, automatically make everything in that library top secret. After that, if a user says, hey, you know what, I need to share this file, it's not actually top secret, this one is general, they're going to deal with that exception. They're going to go into that file and put that lower to general. So we really need to start using all this auto labeling functionality that Microsoft gives us, all those rules that and let's be honest, as IT, we always loved doing scripting. So think of it as scripting and automating stuff, but for sensitivity labels. Go in, we already have, I think, 1,000 sensitive information types. So discovering the data is there, but start making your rules on, do I have this type of content? Give that sensitivity label to the workspace, give that sensitivity label to the library, because we can even set a default sensitivity label for a library. So start creating those rules, start applying them, and make users deal with the exception rather than having to go for every document and applying it. Make them deal with the exception and say, this whole workspace is top secret. If a file is not, mark it as something else. But by default, it's top secret. And that's something that, again, by default, it will be protected. And if a user needs to lower the protection level, they will have to make a conscious decision. They will have to go in, take the effort, and say, no, this is general. So it's not something they'll do by accident, like when you copy a link and the permissions are anonymous has edit, but because that's the default option. Now our default option is more secure. Users can make the choice to make it less secure, but they will have to make it. They'll have to think at doing it, and they won't have the excuse of, it was by default like that, I just didn't change it. So I think that methodology change will still take years for it to be fully implemented across M365, but start creating those rules today. The sooner you do, the sooner you'll learn, because it won't be perfect from the first try, like every automation that you do, but start building that process today. Start auto-labeling things and making sure that it's sensitive by default, and train your users to deal with the exception after. That's my best advice I can give you. And sometimes it's tough today finding those reports on, do people even use labels at all? Do people use them properly? We don't have a lot of those reports out of the box, which is also doesn't help admins know, because, as an admin, our goal, our objective for the year is make it available, but we sometimes don't know, are people actually using it?
Yep. And you touched one thing there. So you talked about auto labeling. So how to put it? A surprising amount of discussions that we had with, let's say, customers is about auto labeling, and a lot of them are saying that there is a lot of false positives in that sense. So is there anything that Microsoft is working on this right now? How is this improving over time? What's your kind of view on that?
I definitely think it will be improving over time. I think that it's all about in fine-tuning that configuration as well, because when you create the rules, you can also set something with the confidence level, right? So you can say, hey, if you're over 50% confident, do that. But if you apply on the label on everything that's over 50%, you're going to have a lot of false positive. So it's also a bit playing with that configuration on the confidence level, and it will also be very unique to each company, right? Because if you're a company that has a Word document that says credit card form, credit card number, and you have the number and you have all of that clearly written, then it's easy for the system to know, hey, I'm 100% sure that's a credit card. But if your stuff is somewhere, in the middle of the text, or just written on a piece of paper because you have some information and somebody just decided to write it by hand, scan it into SharePoint out of nowhere, it's just a bunch of numbers, the system will still say, hey, this is the pattern of a credit card, but I don't see the words expiration or CVC near it. So the confidence level will be lower. Play with those settings. It will be unique to every company on how to adapt it for yourself. So that's what I would say is do that. And if ever you have things like, like patient numbers, I'll give an example, or things like that, also look at the exact data match, because if you have a patient number, you probably have those in another database. You could then just upload them into Purview and say, a patient number for me is one of those numbers that you see from this database. Don't tell me it's a patient number unless you find an exact data match with those numbers. So there's a lot of settings in there, and I believe with AI becoming more and more used throughout Microsoft, going from just the regular expressions that they basically use today to also infusing AI into it, where it can understand the document, will make it better. But for now, it's play with the settings, figure out what works for you on that balance between security and false positive with the confidence level.
Okay, awesome. So, and just speaking about kind of the importance of workspaces. So, Philip, can you show us maybe how Syskit Point can help with the kind of general sensitivity label adoption, and how we can help IT teams get that focus by asking workspace owners to review privacy and metadata?
Well, like Vlad said, the default sensitivity would definitely be an ideal solution, but the underlying message here is that to have successful sensitivity label adoption, you need to make it as effortless for the user, or at least to take as little effort for the end user as possible. And our solution is to first allow the admins to see the percentage of labeled and unlabeled workspaces in the tenant. And we also allow you to delegate this to the owners. So like Vlad said, if you don't make it mandatory, it's not going to get done. But within that kind of an umbrella, you also have an option to make it easier to do it than maybe some alternatives. So if we click on Ask Owners from the dashboard, you can see the list of all unlabeled sites. And you can also filter by the workspace type. So for example, if I filter by teams, we're only going to see the teams. And as an admin, I can select the workspaces that I want owners to provide the sensitivity labels for. So here on the right side, under Manage Sensitivity, I can select Ask Owners, and the owners are going to get a task that requires them to fill out the sensitivity labels for those workspaces. You can also write a custom note, so please fill out the labels. And if I click this, all of the owners of those workspaces will receive an email that is linked to a task that they need to complete within a certain time frame. And here, what's also possible is to manage metadata and privacy. So in the same fashion, you can ask owners to add metadata or privacy, or to check the privacy for the workspaces that, of course, allow the privacy to be applied and changed. And from the perspective of an owner, they will get an email, they will link them to a task. So if we go into tasks, under sensitivity labels, here, if we go into review, they're going to get a task like this. It's going to open up a screen like this. And while it still does require some clicking, and for each workspace, you need to select the sensitivity label, at least you can do it for multiple workspaces at the same screen. So if you just click down, you can select the sensitivity label that you want. And also, what I think is really powerful, you can select all of the workspaces that you need to apply the sensitivity for, and then you can just select confidential, update it, and all of them are going to get it. And like Vlad said, you can set all of them to confidential, and then you can just go into individual ones and make any changes that you want. So it's not ideal because it's not being applied by default, but it's still making it a lot easier for owners to do it, and which leads to higher success rate that they're actually going to do it when asked. So if we just select all of them and complete it, we can add comments. If you don't, if you leave any of the sensitivity labels blank, then the comment will be required. So there's also one extra step to make sure that people will actually fill out the labels that they need. So if you confirm this, it's going to get applied as soon as the action is completed. And under tasks, you can have the same process for reviewing metadata and also for reviewing sensitivity. So that's sort of our way of making it as effortless as possible within what's currently possible with Microsoft. So I don't know, Vlad, do you think that this somehow makes it a bit better than what we talked about at the beginning of the discussion?
I mean, of course, because as an admin, I know exactly how many of them don't have it. And I can also, apply a blanket label to everything and then assign the owner, hey, if you're not happy with this, go change it. But at least I know that I'm protected by default. Everything is confidential by default, and then we'll deal with the exception. And at the end of the day, I think it's important also to know that as admins, we cannot know every single site in the company. It's impossible for us. So being able to easily delegate to owners that actually know the content, that is key, because if not, as an admin, you're going to spend your time learning about every project in the company, which is impossible for admins out there if you want to also do your job as well. So definitely helps.
Exactly, and by focusing on this, kind of when you get the metadata, the privacy, the sensitivity, all of this within Syskit Point, then you are able to kind of create your own views in this sense, focus on those, and then just have this view as some sort of a, let's say, very high risk workspaces that you can often go to and see what's happening on them. So by kind of collecting all of this data, it helps you with what you actually need to be focusing on. So that's kind of where we are going with all of this, asking the owners to participate by providing the up-to-date information about the privacy, sensitivity, and some sort of metadata that is kind of very important to us as admins. Okay, I believe this brings us to our last topic of the day, and this is the visibility into the Power Platform. So we know that Power Platform adoption has been growing like crazy. I believe some of the latest stats that we've shared is that now Power Platform has over 48 million monthly active users. So this means that governance challenges, unfortunately for us, don't stop at SharePoint and Teams and groups. So it kind of goes into Power Platform as well now. And many organizations we talk to right now have hundreds or even thousands of apps and flows running in their environment. And a good chunk of them are actually inactive and orphaned. So Vlad, any insights you can share maybe about what Microsoft is doing to help with this problem? I've seen that the new admin center has been released to public preview just a couple of days ago. How can this help? Just share something about that.
Sure. So like you said, the Power Platform has been growing like crazy. It's like plus 20, 30% every year. And also the crazy thing about it is just getting started, right? Because we have 320 million monthly active users in Teams, and we have 40 million in the Power Platform. But everybody with a Teams license can go and create a flow or an app or use it. So that means potentially it can go up to 280 million more active user per month, only with people that are already licensed. So those governance problems, those are just the power users, the people that really love it, that want to do it. But once everybody knows the Power Platform and starts using it, you have to be careful. And I've seen companies with more flows and apps than users, because people go in and they create a flow for their department and then a flow from them, and it just becomes a huge mess, especially as an admin. The problem that we often had is, let's say I'm at Syskit, I create a few flows, everybody likes them, I create a few flows for everybody. Well, they're under my account. If now I become, they cannot get rid of me anymore, because if they disable my account, well, all the automations fail. And this has really been a huge mess for admins to fully understand how are people using the Power Platform. Like you said, at Ignite last year, so in November, Microsoft launched the new Power Platform Admin Center, which is way better, way more amazing. We actually have things like, the basics. We can actually see all the flows in our tenant, which you would have thought that we always had that ability, but it was not that simple before. So it's getting started there, but it lacks in a lot of things like, cool, I see that I have 100 flows, but not even admins have proper naming conventions on their stuff. Do you think users will properly name their flows when they create a flow from them? Do you think they're going to have the name of the SharePoint site they connect to and things like that in the name of the flow? Probably not. So we're still missing a lot of that functionality of, cool, now I have a list of flows, but I don't necessarily understand it. I don't know if it's active or not. I don't know if it's an important flow or not. And I also think admins are just starting to understand environments and trying to understand, how do I create a strategy for environments in my company? Do we need one per geographic location? Do we need one for department? What should our strategy be? And a lot of that problem is because they simply don't have enough visibility into the flows they have and how people already started using the Power Platform to guide them into the right way of using it from now on. So it's getting better, but still a lot of that visibility is lacking from the default Power Platform Admin Center. Even the new one, it's better, but given the new Power Platform is not in GA yet, even, it's going to take a couple months more at least. I don't think we're going to see any brand new features other than what they announced at Ignite for a while until they manage to bring everything from the old one to the new one and get out of GA. So I think the stuff we have right now is the stuff we're going to have at least until Ignite or the Power Platform Conference towards the end of the year.
And just maybe to touch on some of the questions that are here from the customers, do you believe that currently, let's say, when you are asking this, there is the ability for everyone to kind of use Copilot to create flows, apps? How will this affect the sprawl in this case, the sprawl of Power Platform apps?
Well, the thing with AI is also everybody wants to have fun with it. So a lot of flows will just get created. Oh, let me use Copilot to create it and things like that. But Copilot, at least in Power Automate, is far from perfect. As much as I love to say I love Copilot, when it creates flow is really far from perfect. And a lot of them end up getting disabled or, hey, it's a good try, but let me save it. I'll keep it there, but let me create one by hand. So I think it will create it. It will. The good thing is it will make a lot more people want to create flows, learn about the product and everything. That's the good thing. But also it will create a lot of inactive flows, or it can also create a lot of flows that, I want to make a flow for fun and be like, hey, create a flow that copies documents from SharePoint to my Dropbox so I can work from home. And a Copilot will, of course, do it for you. If you don't have the right security and DLP policies in place, Copilot will take 2 seconds and it will create that flow from you. So a lot of people will be able to do stuff that they had no idea they could do before, because now they can just ask Copilot and Copilot will be like, yes, boss, I'll do it. So it's even more important as an admin to create the guardrails about what you can do in every environment. And I always joke around, put every message from the intranet and put it on Twitter or on X. I'm sorry, still getting used to the name. But everybody's like, why would you even have X enabled or any social media enabled in the Power Platform? Well, the marketing team might need it because they might have a way to post stuff to social media using Power Automate. So you cannot create a blanket policy of we block everything. It's figuring out what's there and how to create environments to create different policies that apply to each one. It's something that a lot of companies are now getting to that pain after realizing how popular the Power Platform is, realizing now we have to govern it and actually secure that as well, because you can leak data using built-in Microsoft tools with Power Automate. It's so easy to do, so you have to be careful as an admin with that as well.
And another question that just popped up. So in terms of the Copilot working with premium connectors, is it enabled by default that Copilot can work with premium connectors as well?
So Copilot will work with any connector you ask it to. It will create the flow, doesn't mean that it will run, right? So it will create the flow for you. It will add the connectors you want it to add. But whether you can run it or not, that will depend a lot on the licenses you have. And while Power Platform licensing, I feel like we can spend a whole hour just talking about part of it because we wouldn't be able to cover it. But you also have to be careful about that self-service, because by default, everybody in your company can get a pop-up. It's like, hey, to buy this flow, just put your credit card info here, and then you can have Power Automate Premium or Power Apps Premium and do it. So so Copilot Copilot is a yes man, as we say. It will do everything you ask it to. Users might get into some limitations after to run it, but if you don't have it blocked, users can open trials. They can just put in their credit card and expense it to the HR department or marketing department without IT having any idea of those licenses if they don't have the right reports.
Okay, good. Philip, you've been doing a lot of research on this from our side. What are the organizations mentioning like their most crucial challenges at the moment with Power Platform?
Yeah, we've been talking to a lot of Power Platform users, and especially people who are managing the Power Platform for their companies. And while the new admin center does help and is a step in the right direction, one of the biggest issues that we've heard is that, like Vlad mentioned, a lot of people at the company have licenses, so they try it out, they create some flows and apps, and often there isn't a solid process in place to manage the sprawl that happens very easily. So people are put in charge of managing the Power Platform at their company, but one of the biggest issues and frustrations that they've shared is that they don't have a way to manage the Power Platform resources, and primarily to even see how many resources there are, to see how many apps and flows there are, how many environments, who has access to them, how many connectors, are they premium, are they not, should they be allowed, should they not. So while the admin center is a step in the right direction, that's one of the biggest issues that people have, is that they have to first figure out how to get all of the data and make it easier to see overarching patterns. So the next steps can be so they can actually know what needs to be done. And that's why with Syskit Point, we've primarily focused in this first phase on creating the Power Platform inventory. So you can see you can see the tile for the Power Platform, which is currently in free preview, because we're trying to get as much feedback from users so we can figure out the best way to continue developing this feature. But the first step is definitely to give users an overview of how many environments, apps, flows, and connections they have, as well as how many of those apps and flows are orphaned, or how many resources are inactive. So if we go into the apps, for example, if you click this, it's going to open up a list of all of the apps that are available on your tenant. And of course, if you go directly through the report, you can filter out which environments you want to see. So you can select to see apps just across specific environments. But here you can see a list of all of the apps. You can see the most important information: who created it, when was it last launched, what is the type of the app, when it was created, who is the owner, how many people it's shared with, etc., etc. And of course, you have a lot more information here that you can enable. It's not enabled by default. But the feedback that we've gotten so far is that it does make it easier to see how many things you actually have. And the second issue is to know which of these are problematic. And if we filter out here, you can see the inactive and orphan apps by default. So you can just click and see all of the apps that are inactive, that have been inactive for a certain period of time, and you can set custom criteria for how many days, after how many days an app or a flow is considered inactive. And you can also see the orphaned apps that that you need to add owners for. So if we go to the report center, and if we filter out the other Power Platform reports, you can see that we have similar reports to see the inventory of all environments and Power Automate flows, which work pretty much similar. So I'm not going to show you double the information. Instead, what I'd like to show you are the permissions report. So you have the permissions for Power Automate and Power Apps. And if you select one of these reports, so you can select, like I mentioned, the environments you want to see permissions for. And if we run this report, you can see the list of all of the apps across all of the environments. But if you expand these little arrows, you can see who has access to these apps. And not just the specific people, you can also see security groups and everybody who is within the security group, even if it's another group. So you can really get a hierarchy of everybody who has access to the app. So it makes it more visible to actually identify problems. Now, the next step that we're going to focus on, because that's something that's needed, after you see the inventory of everything that is available, you want to do something with it. And that's what we're currently building. We're building actions that will allow you to perform cleanup of these resources, so you can change the owners and you can delete the resources that you don't need. And then we're going to also extend this into other actions that our users find the most helpful. And I would just like to show you one more report. So we have the Power Platform connections. So once again, we can select the environments we want to see this report for. We can group it by connections or by apps and flows. And if we run it, you can see all of the connections in your tenant, and you can see whether they are being used and who is using it. So for example, this flow is using it, or this is not being used by any resource. And what's also helpful here is that under tier, you can filter out just the premium connectors. So you can easily identify the connectors that belong to the premium connectors, like Vlad mentioned. Now, maybe if you have a marketing team and they're working with X, they need to have that premium connector. But some companies don't allow premium connectors at all, or they mentioned that they want to remove all premium connectors, and then if somebody wants them, the request needs to go through the proper channels. So this is also one of the ways that you can easily see what's needed. And then the next step, of course, would be to allow you to clean up all of these resources. And I just want to mention that if anybody has is willing to share their Power Platform experiences with us, we're definitely looking to hear more feedback about the issues that people have with Power Platform, so we can continue developing this feature in a way that's helpful to the largest number of people. Daniel, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I believe it's now time for the Q&A. We've addressed some of the questions during the session. I believe there are a couple of more. So let me just ask this one. So there is a question about applying sensitivity labels retroactively on the files, if it's kind of already applied to the library. Is this something that is possible? Are there some sort of PowerShell scripts, anything on that sense, Vlad?
So the question is to use PowerShell to apply sensitivity labels on files retroactively.
On files retroactively. So we've been talking about the fact that it's kind of you need to make something, let's say, secure by default or confidential by default, and then reapplying the files, let's say sensitivity labels, I believe, retroactively to that, to all of the files within that library.
I am not 100% sure. I want to say yes, but I'm not about that 100% sure. So that's one of the things we'll follow up with you after, because now I want to open up PowerShell and the module and try it. I'm not actually 100%. I really want to say yes. I know the easiest way, if you want to do it, not even with PowerShell, if you have E5, you just go into the document library, you set the default label, and next time that it's edited, it will apply it. So that's the easy out of the box 2 clicks way, but I'm not sure about PowerShell. So that's something that I know what I'm doing right after the webinar.
Okay, awesome. So, and kind of one question, I'm not sure, maybe this is for you, Philip. So can we help the IT teams identify any sort of vulnerabilities within the Power Apps and flows at the moment?
Well, I'm not sure what is meant by vulnerabilities. So the Power Automate and Power Apps report do allow you to easily filter out the orphaned. Let me just show it on screen. It's easier to follow. So let's go into Power Automate for this example, since we already looked at the apps. So you can easily see the orphaned and inactive flows. What's also possible is that you have a lot of information here, and you can create a filter. So you can create a filtered view based on the information you want to see. So we can see, for example, everybody that has, I don't know, one owner, we can filter this out, and then we can save this as a custom view. So flows with one owner. And after this is saved, you can easily access this filtered information here. But if the question is more in terms of, do we have tasks like for other policies, that's not currently possible, but that's something that is sort of the phase after the later phase that we're planning. So first we wanted to get users to see everything that they need to see, so visibility and inventory. The next step is to allow admins to manually resolve these issues, to perform cleanup with that. That's why we're developing actions. And then the phase after that is to also allow collaborators to jump in so admins can delegate the maintenance of the Power Platform to other users as well. But that's currently not possible.
Let's say, preview. Sorry, in the case of failed apps and flows, is this something that we can track?
So currently you can see the failed runs in the last 7, 30, 90, and 180 days. So let's just enable, let's enable the failed here. And then here you can see how many failed flows were in this specific number of days. So of course, this is something that can be presented a bit better, and that's why we're trying to collect feedback from users. But this is something that is currently possible. You just have to look for that information this way. So you have to look at it under the specific column.
Awesome. I think having that information is great, because if you have a flow that has 20 errors in the last 7 days, definitely something to, go talk to the owner or something on, hey, is everything okay? Do you need some help? Things like that. So having that information on active and failed is very, very useful.
Yes, and of course you can sort by the number of failed runs, so you can see the highest number at the beginning. And like Vlad said, while it's not currently possible to directly contact owners and ask them to perform certain tasks like what we've seen with the sensitivity labels and inactive workspaces, that will come in the future probably, but currently you can at least see where the issues are, and you can manually contact the owner and just ask them to help them figure out what's needed.
Good. Great. I believe this is, we don't have any more questions in this. So just to end the call. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us on this. As Philip mentioned multiple times already, if you have any feedback for us in terms of Power Platform, in terms of other functionality that you would like to see in Point, or just discuss this with us, some of your challenges, feel free to reach out to feedback@syskit.com. We'll be glad to set up a call with you and just discuss your challenges. And that being said, I believe it's top of the hour, so we'll close the call. So bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.